Hello. Okay. All right. So the title of this talk is obvious and somewhat self-explanatory, and I'm not going to dwell too much on it. And so what we'll do is that we will be discussing the plasma state and the plasma phenomenon. It doesn't matter what field of plasma physics you work in, all right? There is some underlying unity to this entire enterprise, and our aim today will be to explore it together. Okay? And I don't necessarily need any formality. If you believe that I'm going too fast or saying something incomprehensible, feel free to raise your hand and I will, modify my speed accordingly. Okay? Please. So of course you all know that plasmas are everywhere. Doesn't matter where you go, in the laboratory, Earth's magnetosphere, tokamaks, generators, all kinds of fusion devices, and plasma focus, which Professor Lee kindly put up in every university in Africa and Asia. Right? So, you have a kind of wide preponderance of the plasma state in nature as well as in the laboratory. Okay? All right, please. The first few slides have to go quite fast. Okay? So then you all know about inertial fusion. It has many steps, and the whole idea there is that you want to blast a target of deuterium and tritium, and before they get a chance to expand and lose their energy by various processes, you want fusion to take place. So it isn't quite conventional plasma physics because there is no confinement. Okay? And that's why it's called inertial fusion. You blast the damn thing, get energy out of it, and then go over to the next step. Okay? And I'm not going to go through the details of the various stages which are there, but the point is you get enormous densities, all right? And you have to raise them to sufficient temperature, and because the densities are so large, you do not need any confinement. Everything happens in a sufficiently short time, and you can get an adequate amount of fusion energy. And one of the things which we might come back, that the principal plasma process which takes place is the propagation of the electromagnetic wave in a plasma, a very high density plasma, all right? And the dispersion relation for that, very crudely, is like the omega square minus k square is equal to some effective omega square, which is really depends upon the density of the system. But the important thing is that when the electromagnetic wave has a very large amplitude, that is, that Q times A is much greater than the mass of the electron, then it suffers a very, very major correction, and the cutoff frequency can come down considerably. In fact, that is the bread and butter of many laser fusion physicists who depend on this particular formula to make their devices and their experiments. Okay? Please. And then there is, how many of you have heard about ITER? Okay, good. So ITER is the world's largest ever scientific experiment. Okay? Many years ago, when we planned it, we means I was a part of the planning at some stage, and we expected it to cost something from $5 to $10 million. Okay? The projected cost today is about $40 to $50 million. So there is inflation, right? And there is, of course, incompetency, which always leads to high prices. We still do not know whether our last estimate of Ether's price is anywhere near adequate, but this is the most important scientific fusion experiment that is being planned. Okay? Despite the fact that when you read a popular article, ITER is billed as a fusion reactor. Actually, it is. It's essentially an experimental device. It will produce no power. No electricity will be generated. All that you need to demonstrate here is that it's possible to maintain what is called sustained thermonuclear reaction at a Q value which is considerably larger than 1. Q means that the total amount of energy which comes out, its ratio to the total amount of energy that you put in. And clearly, Q is a figure of merit. The larger the Q, the better it is, and which essentially means that electricity can be cheaper. Okay? And just to introduce some vocabulary to you, when we say a burning plasma, which you must have read in any article, it basically means Q equal to infinity. That means plasma produces sufficient amount of its own heating to maintain thermonuclear fusion, and you do not need an external source to do so. So, of course, the dream is to essentially get a burning plasma. Okay? But today, if there is a company which advertises burning plasma, do not buy shares in it. You're not going to make much money. Okay? Alright. Then, so this is going to be one of the biggest plasmas that you can ever imagine. Oh my God. Anyway, so you know about coronal loops, flares, solar corona, here's one. And then you go far away, you have neutron stars, jets, accretion disks, gamma reversers. There are any number of cosmic situations where plasma is present. I mean, to that extent, it's a little bit of a cliche to state that about 99.9% matter in the universe is in the plasma state. Because if you forget about a cool planet like Earth, everything is hot. And whenever it's hot, the atoms disintegrate to nuclei and electron, and you get the plasma state. Okay? So plasma state is...
Swadesh, it's a visible matter. 99% of visible matter is in the plasma.
Right. Right. The point is we have no idea about the nature of invisible matter or the dark matter at all. Okay? Okay. Yes, please. So here again, I'm kind of, this will be the last slide on plasma quantum. So there is really no end to the plasma empire, from the fire in the earth to the lightning in the sky, from burning stars, the surrounding atmosphere, galactic centers, the intergalactic space, to the very beginning of the universe indeed. Okay? And unfortunately, although it's supposed to be plasma physics in the service of mankind, the mankind service which I will render today is only in the realm of the intellect. Okay? Not really illusory products. So I hope you will all forgive me. But I will try to introduce you to perhaps a greater joy than just simply material products. So let's try to understand what is the plasma state. By the way, most of the talk I have tried to keep it non-technical. But, a scientific talk cannot be purely non-technical. So I will become technical at some point. And I also warn you that when I give interpretation to certain phenomena, it is based on my prejudices and my work. Alright? And if anybody doesn't agree with it, by all means contest it. Okay? Alright. So what is the defining characteristic of plasma? It's the existence of what is called the collective motions. Okay? When the groups of particles execute a motion which is not accessible to them individually. Right? Otherwise, all that you could study was motion of charged particles in electromagnetic field. That would be a fairly simple enterprise. But plasma's definition, its essence, lies in the fact that the particles do not necessarily act individually. They essentially create phenomena which are inaccessible to our simplest mode of thinking. And you know what happens, like for instance, if you have a single particle, it has no temperature. But a collection of many particles has temperature. So an entirely new concept comes into existence when you go from one to many. Okay? So similarly, the plasma's whole characteristic is determined by the fact that there are a very large number of particles interacting. And another thing that we know is that most of the interactions there is electromagnetic. They are charged particles. Gravity is too weak amongst these. So strong interactions require much larger amount of energy. So in fact, it's dominated by electromagnetism. Okay? And so it's really, we could make a definition. Plasma physics is a discipline that has developed systematic methodology to deal with the collective motion of particles. Okay? We'll stick to this definition most of the time. And like in most many theories, basic physics is wrong. Electromagnetism. Everybody knows Maxwell's equation or the quantum version, right? But the point is that knowing is not enough. It is the challenge and excitement lies in finding and extracting complex manifestations of collective phenomena. This then will constitute new physics. New physics is not here in writing into the Lagrangian as a particle physicist will do. New physics here is trying to understand that in how many complex configurations that these particles and the electromagnetic wave can find themselves. Okay? Yes. So the most familiar expression of collective motion is a wave. I'm sure all of you are constantly calculating something about the waves. Okay? And the presence of these waves interacting with particles and with each other affect all physical processes, often fundamentally. Okay? In fact, I will just now tell you soon in the next slide that the very discovery of plasma physics as a discipline basically depended on understanding this mode. Okay? So in particular, the momentum and energy flow exchange, they basically do not necessarily take place by direct collisions between particles. There are too few and infrequent. It takes place because they are interacting via the electromagnetic. Okay? So this is precisely how the plasmas acquire the unique characteristic properties. So, so there is a word which very often comes into literature. It's called anomalous. And you hear about anomalous resistivity, anomalous particles, and heat loss, etc., etc. And really, it's not anomalous at all. It's just the way nature is. It's anomalous because we are used to thinking of neutral systems where these processes do not take place. So anomaly is only with respect to a given substratum, which really didn't have all the interesting things that the plasma begins. So we will be studying these, and in fact, of course, some of these anomalous processes can be very violent. They can be destructive, they can be extremely violent. And I will give you, for instance, you have heard about solar flares. Okay? Just enormous amount of energy exchange takes place. Kinetic energy is converted to heat. Alright? And you see the sudden brightening up of the whole horizon. Right. So let's go to beginning of plasma physics. You know, it's like often people would say that Columbus discovered America, as if there was no America before, or people didn't live there. You know, they're always there. Discovery, to some extent, is again a definition that we create depending upon our own cultural biases, right? So plasma physics as a discipline in physics basically started with the work of Lanier and Tom. What they found, now it's very interesting to pay attention to this, what they found was that when they were conducting experiments on ionized gases, alright, a most amazing thing that happens is that the system comes to thermal equilibrium, alright, in a much shorter time than expected from their coming to thermal equilibrium calculations. So if you have a Newton system, and how much time will it take so that a thermal equilibrium is established? And if you have a plasma, it turns out that several orders of magnitude less time is needed for them to establish equilibrium. And the reason again is that the interactions are really not just plain Coulomb, direct Coulomb, but it's through the waves which they create. So the whole system is interacting, exchanging energy, and these enormous processes bring it to equilibrium much faster. So that discovery really launched the field of plasma physics. So Lanier waves essentially are high frequency fluctuations in density electric field. I'm sure every one of you is aware of that, right? And it's through the mediation of the wave electric field that particles exchange energy momentum more efficiently, leading to their thermalization. I hope everybody understands what thermalization means. Right? It's driven by the principle of maximum entropy. Every system left to itself will eventually spread itself uniformly all over space with constant temperature. All right. So, and at the same time, Lanier was a polymath, extremely well versed in not only the laboratory plasmas but in astrophysics. So a big cosmic puzzle was that how do the stars establish equilibrium in such a short time? Like for instance, if you depended only on the direct collision between the hydrogen atoms or particles which Sun, for instance, is composed of, the equilibration time would have been several million times the current known life of Sun. So again, the culprit is the kinetic phenomena which are taking place due to charged particles. Please. Okay. So I will do a little bit of algebra, and nothing deep, but the notation may be a little, unfamiliar to you. But the point is that Maxwell's equations can be written extremely simply in the tensor notation. All those four equations become one small equation which is written as the first part of equation number 2. So there is a thing called the electromagnetic field tensor, alright, and its divergence is equal to the current. It's all in the four-dimensional, essentially the electromagnetic theory, classical electromagnetism theory is that the divergence of the electromagnetic tensor is equal to the current. So the plasma dynamics, no matter what you do, whether you do your fluid theory or kinetic theory or any other complicated system, alright, all that it does, that it closes that system, gives you an expression for the current in terms of the electromagnetic fields. And it doesn't matter whether it's classical or quantum. You can use Schrodinger equation in order to solve the particle motion, right? But the total essence is you find the current in terms of electromagnetic fields, and current basically means current density as well as the regular current, alright, and then the system is complete. Okay, so all the plasma physics that we do is essentially trying to find what is called the constitutive relationship. Finding the currents in terms of electromagnetic fields. Everything might look very complicated. It might take 500 pages of calculations, but the essence is we are calculating rho and J in terms of EMP. Okay, and then stick it in the Maxwell equation, which the good Lord had already given us. So the rest, as I say, is algebra. So the schematic equation that constitutes a relationship when we try to find the current in terms of the electromagnetic field, although it is there, it's right, it's correct, but it's a very complicated equation. It looks much simpler in this condensed notation as compared to the efforts that many of you put in, right? And I'm sorry for these question marks because I could not find the latest version of my talk, so I'm kind of doing something which has some errors. And the important thing is that this particular relationship can be non-linear. That the current and the density are not linear functions of electric and magnetic field. They can be very complicated functions. They can be, anisotropic in addition to being non-linear. All right. So there's a huge lot of variety as you go from one system to another. Right. But there's a unity also. Every one of your effort is essentially trying to find this relationship. And as I said, that this can be nonlinear, and but say if anybody talks to you, will say many of you basically got your first experience in trying to do a linear problem, solve for linear waves, solve for alpha wave, or solve for sound wave, or whatever wave that you, or electromagnetic wave. The whole point is that you spend a fair amount of your life in doing linear theory. Right? So one could say, well, doing linear theory is trivial. No, not at all. Doing linear theory is extremely important because the finding out the natural normal modes of a plasma when you disturb it slightly tells us all the forces it can muster in order to fight against disturbance. It's a defense mechanism of a plasma to have a wave. So you all know, let's suppose I hang a wire and you try to elongate the wave and it starts oscillating like heck. The greater the Young's modulus, the higher the frequency. And in fact, the frequency measures the strength of resistance to any change. So when you find the modes of a plasma, you are finding its natural tendencies and the strength of those tendencies. So it's a totally worthwhile effort, and in fact, it has to be the beginning of the subject before you try to go deeper and delve into the subject. It's extremely important to know what would it do if you just disturb it just so slightly. Okay? So, as I already told you that like omega, approximately equal to omega p for the line wave, is a measure of plasma's resistance to charge separation. You try to make charge separation to create an electric field. Plasma doesn't want to do it, and especially if it is a very high density, it will say, goodbye, no, I will not let you produce electric field. Okay? And so once you know, then of course it becomes easier for you to say, well, all right, this is your natural tendency, but I'll find a way to produce charge separation. You want to produce a wave field, for instance, right? And but the point is, the greater the density, the harder you will have to work in order to create the disturbance. Okay? So that's why systems which are low frequency can become unstable much more easily than the modes which are high frequency. That's a general rule. Of course, anything can be broken in a particular case. So we had treated just now waves and the collective interaction through them as a primary attraction of the plasma universe. Okay, that's what we started with. But plasma physics is really a lot more. It's essentially the determinant of the system, all systems that live long enough. Okay? What is it that allows them to exist in this totally interactive, non-equilibrium state? Okay? And that is our, various ways by which we try to understand longevity of the plasma, which according to many things shouldn't be living so long. It should want to be all over with uniform density and given temperature. But we maintain density and temperature gradient all the time. Okay? And then, so finding plasma configuration in which the effective forces balance each other, that is one of the prime responsibilities of a plasma physicist, in addition to studying waves. First of all, we say waves in what? In an equilibrium plasma. Okay? And if the equilibrium state is not sufficiently long-lived, alright, there is just no time to make any measurements of the system. Alright? So in that case, you can't really study it. Yeah? Okay. So finding plasma configuration where some kind of an equilibrium, not thermal equilibrium, but some kind of an equilibrium exists is really what people like me do a very large part of their life. Okay? Create absolutely new system. Alright? So that we can demonstrate that we can control these forces to such an extent that a long-lived state can be generated. Okay? So, perhaps you all know that equilibrium states are not forever, like the thermal equilibrium state. They're always finite lifetime. Because, eventually thermodynamics takes over and does not allow you to keep the states forever. Now, supposing thermodynamics wasn't acting against you all the time, then we would have nuclear fusion longer. Okay? But we are far from it. And nuclear fusion takes place in a star, primarily because stars are gravitationally huge. So there, all the confinement and long life really doesn't come from electromagnetism, it comes from gravity. Right? Earth is a bit too small to be able to have a confined system of that kind. Okay. So the enterprise, so if something is, has a finite lifetime, then of course the whole idea of studying stability becomes important. Right? So you guys, you're used to studying the equilibrium, waves, and then the stability of the waves. And these are all common to all systems. Okay? Maybe in some system X could be more important than Y, but the methodology is prevalent throughout the physical systems that we deal with. Alright? So the enterprise of studying plasma stability, waves and instability is of course covered in several chapters of all elementary books. So you can see its importance to this extent that there is no book written on plasma physics which does not have chapters on that. Okay? Then, the wave frequencies, as I already mentioned, measure the strength of the plasma to resist change. In this case, resist attempts to destroy it. Right? Instability will destroy confinement, which means it will destroy the state that we are trying to create. So, I suppose I will have to kind of rush through. I don't think I can finish in 10 15 minutes. That's fine. Okay. Okay. Let's go further. How many of you have heard about the so-called self-organized states? Yeah? Okay. Good. So, one of the again very big enterprises in our field is to create self-organized configuration. What does self-organization mean? One of the things that we need to do is that we are fighting against thermodynamics. Okay? So we have to now create configurations in such a way that although they are non-thermodynamic, but there is some internal mechanism by which they can keep being there. Okay? And the most interesting self-organized state in nuclear fusion, which was discovered about 20 years ago, called the H-mode. In fact, this is something which created short gradients, and it was possible to create with a flow of energy, alright, or momentum. And if this hadn't happened, nuclear fusion and the probably have died. Okay? So this particular state of self-organization increases the lifetime of a given system typically by a factor of 2 to 3. And factor of 2 to 3 is huge here because it means that you could make a machine of $1 billion or $100 billion. Alright? So all self-organized states require an external energy states for destruction. Okay? And so we have to provide. So this is an example of a self-organized state in nuclear fusion blast. Please. And then there are states which are called the relaxed states. And it essentially means that these are the states in which all the forces, electromagnetic, fluid, thermal forces, they come to an equilibrium. They cancel out. So dynamics becomes status. Alright? And these self-organized states, these relaxed states, also, like the maximum entropy principle, have a fundamental principle, and that is that these are the states which you obtain by maximizing, by minimizing the energy of the system with respect to some constraints, which the dynamics gives us. So the important thing to realize is that if you try to minimize energy without constraint, you get a trivial state. Okay? And I don't have time to go through the details. And let's skip this also. So a quiescent plasma that we deal with, a plasma which again lives for a sufficient period of time, alright, we can view it as a collection of particles in waves, but waves of finite amplitude, very small amplitude. Okay? And these are the fluctuations in the electromagnetic field and plasma parameters. They carry energy, momentum over a large spectral radiant frequency and wavelengths. Okay? And as you all know, that the frequency and wave numbers in a plasma are related through a dispersion relation. That again says these are the modes which a plasma will be able to support. If that relationship is not valid, then plasma thinks of it as an external distribution and gets rejected. Okay? Alright. And so in an idealized plasma, the waves represent the metamorphosis of the interparticle interaction. Instead of just studying the interaction individually between the particles, you basically subsume it in the creation of waves. Alright? And then the individual particle interaction are not terribly relevant, it's the interaction with that wave. Through that wave, the interaction. Okay? And so one of the very cherished bastions of linear plasma theory is the phenomena of lambda-gravity, in which the waves and the particles interact with exchange energy in a semi-resonant manner. Right? It happens when the particles move more or less to the speed of the phase speed of the wave. Then there is an intense energy exchange between them, and therefore the energy can be transferred rapidly from the particle to the wave or vice versa. Okay? And please go ahead, because we must rush through. And then there is very important, I'm trying to list various processes that take place in a system. Alright? And so then there is a wave-wave interaction. And the waves beat against one another, they create new waves. And those waves again interact with themselves in the particles. Alright? And the intense expression of such a thing will be what is called turbulence, where waves have distributed themselves over a kind of almost an infinite range of spectrum, and there is essentially no order in omega and k. There is no dispersion duration left. Okay? You have all omegas and all k's excited simultaneously. Such a phenomena is the turbulent phenomena, and turbulence is to some extent one of the most ubiquitous phenomena in the universe. It doesn't matter where it is, whether it's in a really Bernard cell, in fluid turbulence, in a solar wind, or in the laboratory. This is to some extent the bane of a plasma physicist's existence. Everything that we want to do, very often turbulence comes and destroys what to do. Okay? And so, please go ahead. So I do want to emphasize to you that although the word turbulence began in fluids, and plasma turbulence has some features in common with it, but it's an entirely different phenomenon. And the primary reason for that is that plasma has finite frequency collective modes. So turbulence is built around them, not for a zero frequency mode as it is done in fluids. Okay? So that is what makes plasma turbulence more challenging, but sometimes less difficult. Because the scope of turbulence does get somewhat limited. If you have cyclotron turbulence, you cannot go very far from the cyclotron frequency. Okay? So the point is, plasma turbulence is a many splendid thing. It has so many different manifestations. All right? And the fact that it is taking place in a system which has normal modes of oscillations, all right, which a fluid doesn't, makes it possible for us to handle turbulence in a much more systematic manner. Okay? So, many of you must have studied Langmuir turbulence for enormous conductivity. It is what forces plasmas to reach certain equilibrium that we began. Alphanic and acoustic turbulence is studied by all space and solar physicists. Right? The experimental simulation of solar wind turbulence is a very big business. And low frequency drift wave turbulence is essentially what tortures most of the fusion physicists. It's something which does not allow them to have a system which will produce fusion at your orbit. Linear characteristics, and yet they are not turbulent. They are very well defined, and they can be solution of simple mathematical structures, while turbulence requires necessarily a statistical theory, because it is just so complicated in base. So these systems are not so easy to create. They require extremely difficult conditions. However, when they come into existence, they have great stability. And in most cases, that stability is called topological stability. If not energy conservation, there are some constraints which do not allow them to dissipate. Okay? Alright. You have heard of KDV solution, Koenig-de Vries solution, envelope solitons, etc., etc. So, over the years, finding soliton, often in milder version of the solitary wave, is a major quest of many scientists in this country. I look at many papers coming from India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, and boy, are solitary waves and solitons popular. Yeah? Okay, let's go. Now, I had intended to introduce you to nonlinear waves in a little bit more technical manner, but I'm sure the chairman has already warned me that there isn't so much time. So let me then just simply say that you can have turbulence coming from large number of waves. You can have soliton to take you through details. But one of the very interesting systems is written in equation 10 and 11. So the black part of the operators is linear and the red part is nonlinear. No small amplitude assumption has been made. And this is a system which tells you about the waves in a magnetized plasma. Okay? So what do we do? Supposing by some miracle the nonlinear terms vanish, or we force them to vanish, right? And please go ahead. So what will happen is that if I decide to put the nonlinear terms equal to 0, yes, go ahead, then it will give me a relationship between the product quantities. Okay? So in understanding some complex properties of waving systems. Okay? I'll give you. Have you heard of what's called Alfvén waving solution? Okay, so for instance, supposing you are studying solar wave. Okay? So it turns out that the amplitudes in solar wind are sufficiently large. Okay? So what kind of basic modes do you analyze the spectrum that you find? They find that there is a fairly deep relationship between omega and k, even though these waves are very large amplitude. Okay? So this will be one of the examples where the nonlinear terms, alright, they were not automatically zero, but under certain such conditions, they can go to zero, and when they do so, then you will have large amplitude waves with a linear relation. Okay? Alright. So here is an example which I showed. So what I can do is, one of the very beautiful properties of linear wave is that you can superimpose them. In fact, the entire essence of early quantum mechanics is that the solutions are superposable. Right? And I can demonstrate that many of the systems of interest to plasma physics, the linear superposition holds for the nonlinear waves. Which means you give me a perturbation at a given time, I will analyze it in terms of my nonlinear waves, and then I translate them, in time, and I end up getting a final state, final nonlinear state within the framework of the semi-stable linear. It's a very powerful thing. Okay. System. But if your system was highly relativistic, alright, then I can get dispersion relation of this kind with various gammas. So you can see very clearly that this is not a standard linear dispersion relation because gamma are amplitude dependent. It's velocity square, right? Velocity is an amplitude. Okay? But what it is telling you that if your perturbations are large, your electromagnetic fields are large, then the effective plasma frequency and the effective cyclotron frequency go down very drastically. So, very strongly relativistic particle going through a magnetic field, don't see it. Says, thank you, we are fast enough, we don't even notice that you're there. Okay? Similarly, the plasma, omega, density, no, we don't see it. So, in fact, an extremely relativistic system, alright, reduces the simplest system in which the wave propagates as if it was propagating in vacuum. Now, it's the most remarkable phenomenon that if I want to understand the waves that I see coming out in gamma ray bursters or jets or other relativistic systems, they will look like nothing than the waves that we study in our first few years in college. Okay? Because they are so strongly transformed due to both thermal gamma as well as the relativistic. Okay? Alright, so I will just mention something else and then I want you to ask questions. So let's go a little further. In fact, let's go all the way to the last slide. Okay, that's it. So let's try to sum it up. So we have gone through this somewhat longish journey exploring the scope and partly the content of plasma physics and plasma phenomena. Okay? We did not really concentrate on any given system. Alright, we didn't say that, look, I work in space physics, I work in laser fusion, I work in low temperature plasma. It doesn't matter. Alright? So we haven't described any individual system in detail, but have concentrated in painting pictures of the physical processes and phenomena. This is the common heritage of all systems. No matter where you begin, whether you are doing fusion at JET, MIT, Princeton, or IPR, I should say, right? Or doing high-energy laser experiments in Livermore, Osaka, France, UT, and at Yapa, or in a random university making theoretical models to understand what powers the solar flares in cosmic rays, the turbulence in the solar wind, magnetic fields in the galactic and intergalactic space, the processes taking place in the fission disks and magnetosphere of the contact objects. It doesn't matter where you are. It's the same toolkit, same building blocks in terms of which you can analyze. Parameters will be different. Alright? But there is no difference essentially in the methodology and the content of science which you can reveal following those patterns. So in our direct wanderings we saw how similar concepts are employed to make sense of various systems in plasma domain, linear and nonlinear waves, turbulence, fluctuation, etc. So I for one have found great joy in traveling through this splendid landscape and have always struggled to explore unknown fields where my expertise and the evolving toolkit can be brought there. So I'm not afraid that let me take a quantum relativistic plasma and see that the notions that I've been playing with all this along, essentially collective many-body physics, alright, will that prevail? What new interesting effects will it give? Or it will not be an exercise in futility. No, it always bears fruit. In fact, at least half of the papers in the last 20 years I've written are always about new systems. Okay? Some of them even imagined, which we do not know whether such things will exist or not. Okay? So here is my message and challenge to you all. Armed with a good plasma physics training, there is no limit to the fraction of the universe you can embrace or you can explore. And imagine somewhere, sometime, you may find your soul or maybe your soulmate. Thank you. electrons.
Why?
Most plasma phenomena.
Very good. Not that. Very much. So most of these supermassive black holes have plasma outside their disk, and plasma has refractive index less than 1. So rather than converging the beams which may be diverging from plasma, they may also interfere and they may give similar sort of winds.
Yes. Right. So the point again is that various physicists are trained to do different things. A person who is essentially trained in gravitation, right, basically say, well, I don't know how to deal with plasma phenomena and I'm going to ignore that. Similarly, plasma physicists will say that even if gravity could be very important in accretion disk, I don't know how to deal with it and I'm going to ignore it. But there is a huge lot of, there is no shortage of such people. Yes.
Get the full talk of yours. But my question is, I was following Professor Hora's project where he had mentioned about the fusion of protons with 11 boron. Sir, now while going through that project, the main stress which he had put the stress that the fusion reaction will be faster as compared to other techniques. And sir, until now I have been reading about deuterium and tritium fusion. Sir, so I'm still not able to understand how will fusion of protons with 11 borons be better and a new technique as compared to the challenges like the instability challenges and the energy transportation challenges which we have been facing in fusion. How will we overcome that?
Right now, effort is about 10 to 15 kiloelectron volts. Okay? In that range, the cross-section of deuterium and tritium is the largest. Okay? So if you go to much higher temperatures, you can always find other reactions which can have a larger impact. But very often the reason why you want to have these so-called advanced cycles in fusion is that you want to not have neutron as an end product of the reaction, because neutrons are they create radioactivity and they are dangerous. So this triple alpha systems and all, they're based on the fact that the final thing will be a charged particle. Alright? So those are the advantages. But you have to understand that in nuclear fusion, everything that has been tried becomes very difficult. And everything that has not been tried, you can say whatever you want about it. Okay? The question finally is the demonstration of sufficient confinement. Things of energy confinement time. It doesn't matter what material you use, even though it may not be as energy efficient as deuterium. For instance, the deuterium fusion, alright, you require much higher temperatures for them to happen, or enormous densities. So, although our sun produces its energy eventually from the D reaction, not from DG, alright? But the fact of the matter is, the sun can afford it, it does. Just don't have the means to use it. But it's very legitimate to look for better and better confinement schemes, better and better fuel cycles, and often what you do is, given limited resources for any finite period of time, you think this is the main line of research, and